Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you who are new here, my name is Donna. Today we are doing the next installment in my Palette Roulette series. Sorry about the hat. I'm having issues with my hair today. Once it gets so long, it is super heavy and it doesn't want to do anything, number one. Number two, it is frigid as F in this house. I have a house that's about 100 and something years old, and it doesn't like to stay warm or cool ever. So in the summer, it's super hot in here, and in the winter, it is frigid. So welcome anyways. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Again, today we are getting into my next installment of my Palette Roulette series. I appreciate you guys so very much for hanging out with me today. If you know nothing about the Palette Roulette series, it was actually inspired by Dani from channel name Danibo, and I have her information linked down in my description box. It is basically a series in which I work with one palette per week, decided on by my Decide Now app that I downloaded from the App Store, and I use it and come up with some amazing looks, which I post in this video somewhere at some point in time, and tell you guys all about how it worked for me at the end of the week. So this is the end of the week for the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Remastered palette. I don't know if you guys have seen the inside of this palette, but this is it right here. This guy here is the little shield to help keep your shadows safe, and I really love this palette. So it does also have a pretty giant mirror on it. This palette was a palette that I purchased because I actually had the original rose gold on my wish list. I think I mentioned a little bit about this in my last video, but about this time last year, I had the rose gold original and the Desert Dusk in my Sephora cart for months, and I finally decided to pull the trigger on it, and the original rose gold had been discontinued and was no longer available for sale, and it broke my little heart. And when this one came out, I was like, I'm not waiting. I'm getting this palette. So I ended up purchasing just the Desert Dusk at that point in time, but did get the Rose Gold Remastered palette when it came out. With that being said, there was some controversy around this palette because everybody thought that the Rose Gold palette was being discontinued, that it was no longer going to be available for anybody, and then they came out with a remastered palette, which is the Rose Gold exactly, only in a different formula, from what I understand. And everybody was twisted because there was like that push to sell the Rose Gold palette, and nobody thought anything about it ever coming back, and everybody was scrambling to get it before it was gone, and then here we have a whole new one. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and do the swatches for you guys. I am going to swatch all of the shimmers on one hand and all of the mattes on the other. So we will just jump straight into those. Alright, so this hand has all the shimmers on it for you, and we are starting right here with this one. It is called Dubai. It is more of a it's more of a shimmer than it is metallic. And then we have this color here, which is called Fling. It is a really pretty, creamy metallic shade. I just love it. It's probably one of my favorites in the palette. This next one here is called Trust Fund, and it is a pretty coppery shade of, it's again a really creamy shade, and I've almost, I think, hit pan on this color just because it's so pretty. The next one here is Rose Gold, and it is another one of the creamy colors that is a rose color but has quite a bit of a gold shift. The next one is this one here, and it is called Pink Diamond, and it really does look like pink diamonds. It is very pretty. This one here is called 24K. I don't find that it's as gold as it could be, but it is still a really pretty gold color. This next one here is the next line down, and it is called Bubbly, and it is a pretty cream, really champagne-y color of pink. It is a beautiful creamy color. The next one here, and it is kind of mixed in with that one as well. You can't see it very well, but it is called Moon Dust, and it is just a shimmer color. It is super pretty as a brow bone color, but I didn't find much use of it otherwise. And then this one here is the last metallic slash shimmer in the palette, and it is called #blessed, and it is just a really pretty, like, it's this one here, and it is almost a like taupey color of bronze. It is a really pretty color. I just didn't find that I used it very much. The mattes are on this hand, and at first we have this color here, which is called Demure, and it is a really pretty, just peachy, pinky color. Honestly, I feel like Demure is the perfect name for it. The next color here is Dollface. It is a really bright pink color, but I find that it actually blends out really on the eye to more of a like a pastel pink color. The next color here is Risque, and I think that that is probably my favorite color in the palette besides the red that we'll talk about in a second. The next color is Black Truffle. It is the black in the palette, and it is a beautiful black color. It is very pigmented for a black, and I find that it helps deepen pretty much any look, and I can blend it out beautifully so it's not just a black look. The next color is Suede, and it is a nice taupe color. Then we have Cocoa, which is kind of a red brown. Then we have Maneater, which is definitely a red color. Then we have this color here, which is called Henna, and it is an orange brown color. Goes really well with this red and that brown there. And then we have the last shade here is called Sandalwood, and it is just a real neutral brown color that goes well with anything. I use it to blend out my colors a lot. I feel like it works for that purpose. It doesn't really show up intensely on the eye. So what I will say is that the mattes in this palette are super, super scratchy. Like, I love them and they work very well, and I did not have any problems creating eye looks with this palette, but the mattes are super scratchy. And the creamy colors are a little too creamy. They're super hard to work with because I'm not a person that likes working with color on my fingers, but these creamy colors have to be done with your fingers. I didn't find any success using a brush with any of these colors, not even if I packed it onto a packer and then sprayed it. It just didn't show up as well with a brush as it did when you used your finger. And we know that to be true with almost every single, you know, creamy shimmer shade, right? Or yeah, creamy shimmer shade. You could probably get those foam applicators that are really good with the ColourPop Super Shock shadows, and they would probably work well on the creams in this palette as well. But it wasn't my favorite to work with those because they were chunky. They kind of chunked out of the pan. When I put them on my eye, they were beautiful, but I couldn't really work with them unless it was with my finger, and I'm just not a finger user for my makeup application. I hardly ever do. The mattes, they definitely blend very well, and they are beautifully pigmented, and they have great color combinations. You can work a brown eye look, you can work a red eye look, you can work a pink eye look, you can even work a purple eye look, even though there's, I think, one color in here that really is of the purple family. But it was so funny yesterday, I think it was, I was wearing this purple and the red on my eye, and it came out to this, like, just this really beautiful purple eye look. And one of my partners was like, I really dig your purple eye look today. And I'm like, it's kind of got more red in it than it does purple, but it was a really pretty look, and I enjoyed using this palette. I do like the Huda formula. These mattes are beautifully pigmented and work well. They're just super dusty. Let me go get a brush. This is the brush that I typically use with some of my shadows just to get it into the crease. You just tap into it to get a look and all that kick up comes up. Can you guys see the kick up? Granted, I do have a lot of color on my brush, but it's just crazy the amount of kick up that it has. And if you're not careful and you don't blow it out of the pans carefully, it ends up in your cream shadows and just kind of plants itself there. So that is discouraging for, you know, the cost of this palette. It is an expensive palette. It is a $65 palette. So you would think that it would just be a little better, and especially because it's the remastered edition, you would expect that it would be a little better put together and maybe not have as scratchy of mattes. I know that when I dipped my finger into all of these, they're just really dry and they feel kind of crumbly, honestly, but they pigment very well. This is probably one of my favorite pieces to all of her palettes. Is a really hard plastic piece to cover the shadows and keep them protected, and all of her palettes come with something like this with her face and like a motif on them, and I think it's just beautiful. So with that being said, I really did enjoy this palette. I don't have a problem with this palette. Huda Beauty is a brand that is pretty controversial. They have all kinds of different products, so I really think that I like this brand. I don't know what anybody else thinks about this brand, but I really do like this brand of makeup. So this palette has 18 eyeshadows in 4 ready-to-layer textures. It has 8 buttery mattes. They're not buttery. 8 melted metals, 1 wet and dry jet black, and 1 highlighting pressed pearl. The black is very buttery as opposed to the other mattes. The other mattes I don't find buttery. They're just not a buttery matte formula. I don't feel like they're very dry, very powdery. The matte black though is a very matte black. My phone keeps going off. Sorry guys. And then the highlighting pressed pearl, I'm assuming is the moon dust, because it is very much a shadow that doesn't, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it doesn't really, I mean, it definitely highlights. It's an amazing brow bone color, but it doesn't really give you much more than that. I'm going to slide over here so I can put some pictures in here. I don't find that I had any problems coming up with a look with this palette. All of the colors work well together, and like I said, I was able to create, you know, reds and purples and browns as far as eye looks go. I didn't really mix and match with the purples and the browns, to be honest, but I did use a lot of brown with my red looks, and I think that they came out wonderfully. I did find that I had to use the black in almost every eye look just to deepen up the outer V. I didn't use any today, and I find that this look is fine, but it started out, it's actually this color here and red. And I used this one here, which is called Fling, and I used Bubbly just in the center there, just in the center of my eye to give it a little bit more of a kick. And I do like this eye look, but it turned out a little more orange than I would have preferred. And I don't even know how that happened, honestly. I didn't really use an orange color, so it is what it is. But if you are into like super warm colors with a pop of purple, you would love this palette. Do I think it's worth $65? No. Honestly, I do love it. I love the creamy colors. I don't love that I have to use my finger in it or buy a separate tool to use with the creamy colors, and I don't like the texture of the mattes. I don't feel like that this was her best palette, which is funny because it's her remastered palette, so it should have been better. I don't know what the first one was like at all, so I can't speak to it, but I know that of the palettes I have of hers, and I do have quite a few, I don't feel like this one was the best one. So now is the time we are going to pick the next palette for next week. For those of you who don't know, I do use the Decide Now app. It is an app in the App Store. I do have a Samsung Note 9. I use the Play Store, not the App Store. I think App Store is via iPhone or whatever. I don't own an iPhone. I don't really like iPhones. So that is for me. I use this app called Decide Now. Danny uses a different app. I think hers is basically same thing though. It is a spinny wheel. It does have, you can name it, you can put your palettes into it, and then I can also take palettes out as I get rid of them, if I get rid of them. Hers is more of a declutter series, whereas mine is not. Mine is just a let's use it kind of series. But I very rarely take palettes out, but I can always add palettes in as they come into my collection, and that way they will also get their turn in the limelight. So now we're gonna spin the wheel and find out what our little app has for us in store for next week. I love this part. We have the ColourPop My Little Pony palette. I'll be right back with that palette. Alright guys, this is the ColourPop My Little Pony palette. This is the palette that was chosen for next week. I did get this in a BoxyCharm. It is the palette that I wanted to receive in that BoxyCharm, and I was super excited to have it in my collection. It means the world to me because I was a My Little Pony fanatic as a child. That may age me, but you all should know my age by now. I love My Little Pony. This is the colors in this palette, and I feel a lot of warm tone looks out of this. I do know I'm able to get a couple cool tone looks out of it, and I do love this blue here. It's beautiful, and this turquoise is also a beautiful color. So, and it does have kind of this like purpley black color in it. So I'm actually excited. I'm excited for what this week will hold, and I am excited to get some use out of this palette. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you're enjoying this series. Please let me know if you are or you aren't. Please let me know if you're working through a series like this with me and what palette you worked with last week and what palette you'll be working with next week. I do love seeing your guys' comments in the comments section, and I hope to see you down there. I hope that you'll want to like this video before you leave today and subscribe to my channel. I do upload content 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or Sunday, dependent on how my work week goes. Sometimes there's an extra video in there. And I hope to have you along for this crazy ride of mine. Thank you guys again so much for joining me today, and until next time, bye guys. I have a hair somewhere. Not sure, not sure where. Of course, me and my swatches. I can't get my life together here. The next one is this one here, and it is, wait, almost a, it's this one, it's, you could probably get those foam applicators that are really good with ColourPop's shoots. Let's go with this color here. When you tap, why does my phone keep going off? So I use the App Store, not the, I use Play Store, right? So I am going to spin the wheel, and we will see what palette is picked for next week. Oh, Donna, you took that palette out.